subscribe, hit that
It's me
button.
again.
Let's grow together. Share with your friends through any kind of weather. Library without borders. We're reaching for the sky. Join the journey now. Come on, don't be
Hello,
shy.
hello. How's it going? How are you? I hope if you're not well that you will tell me so we can talk about it. I'm your friend, you're my friend. Okay? So this is March, is Women's History. You know, we take care of one another, okay? Let's learn to love one another, women, okay? All right, you guys, don't go anywhere. All right, so check my shirt. Yeah, you know, this is my guy. And I'm gonna tell you, because you see, me, I don't appropriate other people's heroes without knowing the history, or other people's music or anything without knowing their history. Okay, so hear me out. First off, let me do my intro. Jambo, Karibu. Welcome to my channel. My name is Chilanda and this is Library Without Borders. Okay, so as I was saying, this guy is my guy. When I was learning about African history, I had this little small book. I discovered about Malcolm X and how he actually spoke for the Congolese people in one interview. And in fact, when I was reading or listening to the Lumumba plot, they talked about W.E. Du Bois, who came, I think, went to visit Ghana during the 1950s, 60s, when, you know, Africans were trying to take their independence from the colonizers. And also they spoke a little bit about Malcolm X. And I saw also that little interview where he spoke about the Congolese people and Patrice Lumumba. And I was just like, yes, you are my hero. And even outside of that, I read the other book, Confession in B Flat. I always talk about that. It's right here by Donna Hill. Donna Hill. Oh, okay. Where it was a love story between a man who was following Malcolm X. He was a follower of Malcolm X. No. It's the girl. Sorry. The girl was the follower of Malcolm X. And then the guy, the love interest, was the guy, he was following Martin Luther King Jr. So, and it was these two who were fighting for the same things but taking different approach. And I've always said, I'm not a person who's inclined to physical violence, but between the two, Malcolm X. Malcolm was my guy. I was going to be his follower. When I thought of it, I truly thought of it. I'm not a religious person, y'all, so it obviously meant that this guy was gonna be my guy. So anyways, in honor of Black History Month, and we're obviously wrapping up the Black History Month, I thought it'd be befitting to just wear this shirt. Okay, you guys, y'all know I like to ramble on before I really talk about the main production, right? So as I mentioned, this video is simply me wrapping up all the books I read in the month of February, obviously in celebration of Black History Month. And again, please excuse me before I get into it. Somebody said reading is political. Okay, let's not forget that. As much as you want to escape, you know how I know it's political? Because even when you read fantasy, you know that shit is political through and through. Okay, the world building, the different the politics in fantasy, the people fighting, everything, you know. And even in romance, sometimes it can be political, you know what I mean? Like a woman, you know, for example, a woman who wants to have multiple partners, you know, it's always still frowned upon, even though it might be accepted nowadays a little more than it was before. That's political. So and historical fiction, right? So every genre is political. Reading is political. Always remember that. With that said, I'm gonna try to make this video as short as possible. Anyways, you guys, so let's talk about the books. You guys, I'm hoping that I'm gonna remember, because I read these books it feels like a while ago, so I don't know. First off, I obviously started the month with Conflict Minerals by Christoph N. Vogel. and war, profit, and white terrorism in Eastern Congo. So I've already talked about this book in my vlog. I encourage you guys, if you haven't watched it, to please go watch it, because I speak thoroughly about this book in my vlog. And just a little resume. It simply talked about the conflict in Congo that's been raging in that country for decades now, and over 12 million people have perished, and as we speak today, more than 7,000 have been declared dead since the beginning of this year alone. 7,000 young. So it talks about the famous coltan that's being used in our cell phones, that's used in our computers, that's used in our fridge, our cars, and it talks about the fact that the Congo has 65% of that coltan and infinite other minerals. So this is what you guys, I don't understand. They said infinite, so there's a lot more for everybody. Even if all of it doesn't even go to the Congolese people, like they don't, those people don't, they don't even, most of them probably never touched an iPhone, an iPad, you know, or seen an intelligent fridge, okay, that can show you the content of your fridge. Okay, I'm saying this with a smile, but I've had time to process my feelings, and I'm fine. I have to talk to you guys professionally. So this book talks about the multiple rebel groups that are involved in that conflict. What is really the role of Rwanda in the war in Congo, and the role of the international community, and that company called ITCS, I never know the acronym, ITSCI, the role that this particular company has played in Congo. So I encourage anyone who is inclined to read a non-fiction book in order to understand in depth the history of the Congolese people and the current conflict. I encourage them to pick up this book. Now, I'm not going to rate this book because it's just not, it's not readable. It's a non-fictional book that needs to be read. Then I read this lovely thin book, and it's Our Time, honoring the African Nova Scotian communities of East Preston, North Preston, and Lake Longshore. I really enjoyed this book because I got to learn about the Maroons, just a little bit, not too much, but the Jamaicans who fled Jamaica, were escaping persecution, and who were transported or brought to Nova Scotia, and basically were the first loyalists of that part of Canada and their accomplishments. So I want to open up this little review with a quote. Explorer Mathieu da Costa is credited as being the first free black person to arrive in Nova Scotia. He was part of an expedition that founded Port Royal in 1605. He spoke many languages, and he was the go-between the Mi'kmaq and the Europeans. So the presence of black people in Nova Scotia can be traced as far back as the 1600s. Okay, next, settlement. I just want to show you this image. Y'all recognize this image? To be sold and let by public auction. The planters had already expressed interest in the coveted land before the expulsion took place. Remove that. So between 1760 and 1768, approximately 8,000 New England planters immigrated to Nova Scotia and what is now New Brunswick. With them came a few hundred enslaved blacks and indentured servants. Some free blacks also came to Nova Scotia as planters. So here she talked about Preston. So you guys, like I said, I'm gonna share a few more quotes, but I just wanted to share the part where they talked about the Queen when the United States were fighting against England, and what were promised to black people if they fought on the side of America against English, or the other way around. So loyalists throughout the United States came from different backgrounds, religions and classes. So here, being a loyalist in America during the Revolution was quite dangerous. A loyalist could be arrested or killed under suspicion of helping the British or assisting known loyalist activists. In 1783, as the Revolutionary War came to a close, the British Crown announced loyalists would be receiving their free land rents in Nova Scotia, with heads of households receiving anywhere from 100 to 1,000 acres each. So when that happened, they were obviously brought to Nova Scotia, you can see. And you have to understand, these people were coming into arduous terrain. You know, Nova Scotia terrain was very hard to work. They talked about how it was really hard to work the land. It talks a lot about the struggle of these royalists, how they were shunned by the white people in Nova Scotia, and how they were given like the worst kind of terrain for them to build like their homes. And they talked a lot about the heritage of the Baptist church in this book. So they talked about, like I said, the Maroons. So here it's apparently an establishment that the Jamaicans, the Maroons from Jamaica, helped build. It's a government house. I want to read you as well the part where they talked about how certain enslaved people from Jamaica, but as well some place from the United States, were offered to go back to Sierra Leone. Okay guys, so it's here. So black loyalists faced harsh weather conditions, great suffering, and even death while in Nova Scotia. They were disappointed with the treatment they received in their new land and were frustrated with the government's broken promises. So in 1791, when a British company offered to relocate black loyalists to Sierra Leone, West Africa, many of them, including community leaders, teachers, and pastors, decided to go. By 1792, dissatisfied with their experience in Nova Scotia, almost half of the black loyalists who had arrived after the war set sail across the Atlantic. About 2,500 remained scattered across the province. And then it talks about precisely the war that the Maroon fought against the British in Jamaica. And there was one particular Maroon guy, what's his name? Leonard Parkinson was one of the men who led the Maroons of Trelawney Parish in Jamaica through attacks by British colonial forces in the 1700s. There he is. That's him. You guys, I mean, this book is tiny, but it packs so much information about the black people who settled in Nova Scotia. It also talks about the first African Baptist church in Nova Scotia, and throughout the book it talks about the importance that the Baptist church played in the lives of the African Nova Scotians throughout that period until today. She has a list of like all these names. Last quote I want to talk to you about is just the part where she talks about Canada, how Canada was involved in this war that basically was between England and America, and the black people were caught in the crossfire. So let's see. So the most common historical accounts indicate the war began as a military conflict between Britain and the United States, brought on by tensions between Britain and France that had huge effects on the interests of the United States. So President James Madison declared war on Britain after it refused to stop seizing American ships that were trading with its enemy France. Canada became swept up into the war because of its status as an ally to Britain. So Canada and the United States became the sites of those battles, and Canada experienced multiple invasions by the Americans. Okay, talking about the invasions between the invasions of the Americans in Canada. Okay, I wanted to say this, just allow me to say this, okay? Now we're gonna go back to the story. We're gonna conclude this story. Americans and Canadians alike, okay? Remember that we are friends, okay? We are friends. Just because Trump decided to do what he decided to do because he's Trump, doesn't mean that we have to forget that, you know, we were just friends a few days ago before this man was elected. Because now I see this war going on between Americans and the United States online, and I'm like, at first we had these friendly exchanges, you know what I mean? But now it's a bit serious, and I just want to remind Canadians that we're not at war with the American people. As you can see, they're very unhappy with their government, and Americans, we're not at war with you. So let's remain polite and nice and respectful until the 4 years is over. Let's just sail through it, okay? Let's just remember that we are not enemies, we are allies. Okay. So anyways, you guys, I know I read quotes because I don't know how to explain it. Like it's an intricate story of Canada. I had no idea. Like I just anything that has African I'm very much intrigued, and it was amazing to learn about the Loyalists, the the first people who settled in Nova Scotia, and seeing pictures and reading about their accomplishments and knowing that they are still very much there today, the African Nova Scotians, because those African Nova Scotians are different from us Africans who are just coming into Canada, right? They're different. So we have to know, because even at the end of the book, they kept talking about like African Canadians and all that stuff, but I had to remember that they're talking about those descendants of the first Africans who settled in Nova Scotia were completely different from Africans that are here today in Canada. I encourage everybody to read a little bit of history of the Africans of Nova Scotia. Okay, so next I read this book last. This book needs its own video. I'm going to talk about this book on its own, but it's obviously by Carter Godwin Woodson, and guys, I tabbed and highlighted this book like there was so much things there were so many subjects that were discussed that I need to go a bit into details when I'm talking about this book with you guys, because I wouldn't do it justice just skimming through it. But I do want to share 2-3 quotes with you guys. Just the beginning. Let's see. The educated Negroes have the attitude of contempt toward their own people because in their own as well as in their mixed schools, Negroes are taught to admire the Hebrew, the Greek, the Latin, and the Teuton, and to despise the African. Okay. So y'all remember in my other video when I said there was this African American woman who said that some African Americans feel like that connotation of African is like calling them the N-word. He spoke about this. When a Negro has finished his education in our schools, then he has been equipped to begin the life of an Americanized or Europeanized white man. Yo, I ain't saying, I'm reading, okay? It's not my own words, okay? There's certain things, I'm gonna keep this for my other video because one last quote, because I'm gonna go through these. I like this part. Africans' early advancement in this field was omitted. Students were not told that ancient Africans of the interior knew sufficient science to concoct poisons for arrowheads, to mix durable colors for paintings, to extract metals from nature and refine them for development in the industrial arts. Very little was said about the chemistry and the method of Egyptian embalming, which was the product of the mixed breeds of northern Africa, now known in the modern world as colored people. Okay, like I said, y'all, the way I'm gonna do a video with this book, we're gonna go not through each quote, but most important quotes, and we're gonna break it down and see its relevance in today's society. But y'all heard, see, this is why I read. This is why it saddens me whenever I see the things I see about what is told about Africans and how certain black people feel that they want to separate themselves from Africans. We're brothers, we're sisters. I don't understand. I don't get it. Just learn about history and you will know that we are, I don't want to say we are grand, okay? We did things, we accomplished things, and things were erased from history because it was, how do you call it, the colonizer who wrote the history and erased us. And anyways, you guys, so yeah, I'm gonna just talk about this book in another video. So next I read Stacey Abrams' Rules of Engagement. I actually read this book when I was doing my vlog, and I wanted to include this in my vlog there, but I was like, it's gonna be way too long. So I needed to read a book that was light, you know, and I picked this up after I finished reading It's Our Time and Conflict Minerals. And this story is about Raleigh Foster. Let me just remind myself again. Oh yeah, so Riley works for a top secret organization. Okay, the way it begins is that she's on a mission and she is with Adam, but they have different, how do you call it? Atlas name, different Atlas. Okay, y'all get it. Okay, so the mission goes awry and she loses her friend in that mission. So years go by, she goes to normal, and then she's called again on another mission, and that mission will be in Egypt. So I like that it was, in Africa, but precisely in Egypt. But the only thing is, she's asked to work with Adam. Now Adam had something during that first mission, like they were both working in that mission and they were just beginning to develop new feelings for each other, and they were quite young then. So now in this mission that is mostly basically Riley is the leader of this mission, but at the same time she has ulterior motives why she's going to Egypt. She wants to discover if the friend really died, because I think she believes that he may not have died. There's that aspect. And Adam, that friend that died, was his best friend. Okay, so you can just understand a little bit of the intricacies that will develop throughout the book. So they do go on this mission, and obviously there is animosity between them too, because he feels like she betrayed the friend, because at the beginning of the book you hear them talk, like you hear Adam and Riley talk, and he asks her to go back to tell their friend that the mission has been compromised, and she's like, no, the rules are clear, hence the rules of engagement. The rules are very clear. You can't go back, you can't tell, you can't compromise, you can't compromise the mission. So you can tell that there is a little bit of that past animosity between them too, but even at that, they can't help but being pulled towards each other. So as they go to Egypt, you follow them through this journey of basically either rekindling that relationship that truly never flourished, or they won't be able to fix the relationship because of the friend that initially set this whole thing ablaze in the first place. Okay, so it was a good book, y'all. It was a really good book. I don't think it was fast-paced, but I think it was thrilling enough for me to want to, read the book. So it's a 4.75 out... No. 3.75 out of 5. Excuse me. 3.75 out of 5. And always know that whenever a book is 3 and above, it's very recommendable. Okay, it's just a few details of why they're not 5 stars or 4 stars, but 3 and above, I absolutely would recommend to read, because it could be a 5 or 4 star for you. And then next, I read this one, Yonder by Jabari Asim. So this is a slave narrative book, and I love the way the take on the slave narrative was written in this particular book. The people that were taken are called the stolen, right? They are called the stolen. So we have multiple, was it POV? Pandora, we have Cato, we have William, we have, I think I mentioned Pandora, and then we have, so William, Cato, Pandora. Okay, so hopefully I will try my best to explain this book currently. So you have William, Cato, Pandora, and other enslaved people. So they have been taken onto a plantation, and you already know the story. They have to work those plantations, and it has a little bit of magic realism to it, which I really liked. Now, I know there were people here who had relationships, and I can't really, I can't recall. So let me see. Let me just read a little bit so I can resituate myself again in the story. So William is falling for Margaret. See, that's what I told you, there were other characters. And then Cato, whose first love, Iris, was sold off with no forewarning. You have William, Cato, Margaret, a group of these enslaved people who have been brought onto this plantation. Now, the biggest part of this story is that there are echoes of enslaved people who have run away and actually made it onto It's not Canada, maybe it's Canada, but like this place that where you know there are people who are free, where the Negroes are free. So now you hear a little bit about their everyday life on the plantation. And one aspect I wanted to talk about is how some of the black people were used against their own people. You know how you have those overseers, but even below the overseer you have that one black person that is used to as a weapon against his own people. There was that one black man, and he was really filthy. Like, one, he abused one of the enslaved women. The woman was given to him, so he would abuse her, and he drank a lot. So that was his, I guess, his compensation for keeping the Negroes, you know, in line. So one day, which is the part I love, one day something goes wrong. Like, all these, like William, Cato, they've had enough. Like, they've had enough of this guy. They decide that he went too far. Like, he did something, he went too far. So they decide that they're gonna, like, you know, kill him. So they do kill him. It's really at the beginning of the story. I'm not ruining it for you guys. So they kill him, because this part is what sets the tone for the rest of the story. They kill him. So obviously they have to hide it from the master, from the enslaver, because, you know, you can't, that's a chattel, that's somebody that's you know, you if they lost property, cattle, like he was a cattle, like, you know, you can't do that. So they do what they have to do. They bury the other black dude, and now they're like, okay, what are we gonna do? So now the enslaver is like, okay, he's calling everybody. Where has he gone? Did you guys see him? Where is he? And everybody's like, they don't know. And remember the woman I told you he was abusing? They get her, they whip her. They're like, you know where he is, because you always, you know, you're with them. So she's like, she cried. She's like, she doesn't know, and she did know. So I think it's Cato or William. One of them decides to be like, okay, I know. He told me he ran away. Oh, the whipping that this guy got. He was whipped for hours and then tied to a tree and left there for, I think, for 48 hours. And what I loved about it is that whole realism, magical realism that come where he sees, like, I think a little boy that comes and talks to him and tells him to hold on, to hang on. You're there for 3 days. You're going to be like freed. And just before I conclude this this story, it's now finally Cato, William, Margaret, and Pandora, all of them deciding, and I think Little Xander. I like Little Xander. Yeah, Little Xander. All of them finally getting together and decide that, you know what? I think we should make a run for it. Woo! Yo! When I say this story, I have goosebumps. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, every time I think of these stories, you guys, I'm like, you know the punishment. Like, you will be unalived. And it's not that you are unalived in a humane way, but yet you have these people who like freedom or nothing. And they went on that journey to seek their freedom. And boy, oh boy, was it fraught with obstacles. And I'm not telling you if everyone made it. It's for you to find out, because at the end I was like, you guys need to read this book. It was 4 out of 5. It's a good book. It was up my alley. I was there with the characters. My emotions were, it did what it's supposed to do. It did what it was supposed to do. So 4 out of 5. Then I read this book, Sing Me to Sleep by Gabby Burton. Now I'm gonna say something. Okay, first of all, it's pretty, right? It's really gorgeous. We love the characters. Very gorgeous. Can you see her? Yeah. And then okay, so the characters, who are they? So it's about Seorsi. I'm gonna call her Sarkova, because Sarkova is easy. Sarkova and the prince, what's his name? Prince Hayes. Okay, real quick. First of all, I don't like the character, the main character. I don't like her. I didn't like her. So the way it starts is that she's a siren, obviously, and the way she lures men is by singing to them. She has 2 faces. So she has a face that is very pretty that men can't resist, and once she like sings, you are absolutely hypnotized and you are gonna follow her to the depth of the oceans, literally. Okay, what I realized is that she actually killed there were people, yes, that deserved to be, I guess, dead, but like there were some people that she lured to their death, and I was like, why though? But then the way it's explained is that she is naturally inclined to make a kill, because as a siren, that's instinctual, you know. Even if she doesn't want to, she has this call, like the ocean calls her to kill. So now what happens is that she goes to this graduation. She has to graduate from like this, I guess, fighting school and so on. And she has this little sister, but get this, they're not from the same family. She's a siren. Her little sister is not a siren. I can't tell you who she is, but they still grew up together in the same family. Her mom and the dad also have different affinities. That's how they call when you have like magic powers. It's different affinities. So the little sister, Sarkova, tells her not to come to the graduation because it can get dangerous. But then she decides, she comes. And then Sarkova is mad. And she came there with her best friend. Like, he's a guy. So, and then what happens that she discovers a letter that was left in the backpack of her little sister. And when she reads, it says that she needs to basically go to the palace, discover certain things, or if not, then her little sister, her secret will be uncovered. And what happens is that in this world there are fays, you know, there are water fays, fire fays, and stuff like that. And the Prince Hayes is a fae. He's a fae. She's a siren, and the royals are responsible for having exterminated sirens. So obviously she has a vendetta against the royals, and she's like, okay, sure, I'm gonna go, especially if my little sister's in danger. I'm gonna do what I have to do, because yeah, I don't like them anyways. And obviously, as you can guess, she goes, she's meant to protect the Prince Hayes. Like I said, I didn't like her because first of all, she fought too much the prince in terms of how he was getting smitten with her, and she just kept pushing him, and she would do it in harsh ways but in respectful ways, because he's a prince, you know, like she would say like something mean, but then in like very much like, I'm your subject, but like, don't touch me, your highness, you know what I mean? Like there was that, and I get that it was there maybe for the intent and purpose of the story, but like I said, I didn't like it. I didn't like that she needed to kill. And something does happen where she does make a killing in the palace, and that will set events to basically come tumbling, like, you know, like it will, like that one killing will be what sets the rest of the story, like the tone for the rest of the story. So now the prince is smitten with her, but obviously she doesn't want to give in to her feelings, and like I said, she did something, and she also is there to protect her little sister. So it was good. Like, I love the fact that most of the characters were black, you know. We want a fantasy book that's for black, written by blacks with black characters, so I love that. I love the mention of dashiki, which were the royal dressing of the people in that world, so I like that I liked. The story was interesting enough for me to want to follow. Like, I wanted to know the end, and it was really, and the twist was like, oh, okay. And now I just want to read you this part. Yeah, let me just find a little quote. There's just 3 quotes that I found interesting. So what was it? As if I need an explanation for looking into the extinction of an entire species. I like that because sometimes people want us to put the past in the past and just move on, you know. I like the fact that she was saying that. She's like, as if I need an explanation for looking into the extinction of an entire species, because she's being told that sirens are long gone, you're probably the only one. So she lives in hiding, and she's hiding out, right? She can't, like, the prince does not know that she's a siren. She cannot let the whole world know, because obviously the royals were responsible for exterminating the sirens. So I like this part as well, where she says complacency and condoning are the same. So again, when we're talking about the things that are going on in the world, some people want to be like, yeah, no, I don't want to get involved, but just know that condoning and even being silent which is complacency. You are still being part of the problem and not part of the solution. So you choose. In this world, whether you want it or not, you've got to choose sometimes. Most of the time. Choose your side carefully. I like that. And lastly, the same page, you're not listening. The sentencing was awful, but there's nothing I can do about that. My father hates me. So basically, the reason why I tabbed that last paragraph, it was again the prince talking with Sarkova and explaining to him that I can't do anything, I can't change, and I wanted to sort of talk about that because sometimes we feel like we can't make changes because it's beyond us, or we are being controlled by powerful leaders, or in this case by his father, who ruled that kingdom with the iron fist, and he felt like he couldn't do changes. So in that conversation, the way Go Sarkova shows him that you have a choice, you will inherit the kingdom, so you can make the changes. You can. Don't say you cannot. Okay, so there you have it. It's a 3 out of 5. I feel like most of these fantasies are usually a 3. It's a 3 out of 5. It's a good, you need to read. It's good. This is my last physical book, but I also listened to 2 books. So real quick, A Right Worthy Woman by Ruth P. Watson. Now this book is very interesting. It's short. I think it's only 300 pages. I actually listened to it as well. And it's the story of Maggie Lena. Maggie Lena can pass for white. Literally, she can pass for white. She's very passing. Like, she can pass for white. And this story starts at the beginning of, is it 1876? She basically went through all the movements. What she's renowned for, and it's actually based on a true story, is that she was a great banker. She was responsible for building her community. She was an activist for her community. So when I say the story started in 1876 to the 1930s, 40s, so this story is in the middle of the Confederation, like Confederacy. Okay, so you just can tell she's born in like the fires of Confederacy. And there, she always felt like she wanted to do something for her community. She was mad to see how white people kept taking advantage of black people, of colored folks. And the whole book, the language that's used is colored folks. Colored throughout the book. So you have to be mindful of the time. So you follow her through Confederacy times, during the Jim Crow times, during the crisis, the financial crisis, during the Spanish flu, during the First World War, 1846, is that first? 1946, the Second World War. Okay, you follow her through that. You follow her through the yellow fever that plagued the United States. And among all of those big events, you have her getting married to a beautiful man. What was his name? Let me get my notes, y'all. Let me get my notes, because I took notes. Yes, Confederacy, 1863. And she lives in Jackson Ward, somewhere near, I think it's Virginia. And Armstead, yes. So she marries Armstead. Armstead is also light-skinned. They got these light-skinned kids, okay? And throughout the book, you actually see how she does these things for the community. And some people tell her that sometimes the way you get away with things is because you're almost white. You can pass for white. And she does talk about the fact that she gets very offended, but also she does acknowledge the fact that, yes, she does use some of her passing to her advantage, but it is for the benefit of the colored people. So so she's married with Armstead. And you have to know that during that time, women didn't have the right to vote, let alone black women or black people in total. And Armstead also is of a generation where women had their place. You understand what I mean? Women cannot wear pants, literally, and basically do what she did. Like, she was able to talk to the mayor of Jackson Ward and get certain things from him like no one else could during that time. And she created an emporium, which was this store for black people. But unfortunately, because white people were not happy, and that's why you realize in this book is that everything she tried to do for the colored people, white people just did everything to sabotage everything. And it was like, you don't want us to shop in your stores. You don't want us to go eat in your restaurants. You don't want us to go in your banks. So let us do everything for colored people, by colored people. And even at that, they just wanted to like, until she was forced to close. And the beauty of this story as well is the friendship that she has with W.E. Du Bois and Mary Bethune, and another person in the literature world. I love the mention of W.E. Du Bois and Mary Bethune. And there was also the strong religious aspect that played in her life. She was a firm believer of Christianity, and everything she did, she was like, God is guiding me. She was all about, God. And she helped found the first African Baptist church. Get that they said African, not African American, because sometimes this is why I love these stories. No matter how much you want to, I will always show you every books that I've read. It's written by African Americans, but these authors know of their heritage and know that you cannot write the story of African Americans without Africans. So when you try to say that you want to disassociate yourself for Africans, and today you mock Africans, you laugh at Africans and all that stuff, hey, like I said, do you. But history proves that Africa has always been there, will always be there, and has a big, huge influence in the whole wide world. So yeah, the first African Baptist church, she invested in her neighborhood. Like when I say she invested in her neighborhood, like she had meetings and her husband was there. And sometimes they started having children. He'd be like, you work hard, you do this. And she was like, I need to do this. She felt this drive that she had to do this for her community. And people from all over the United States were coming to put money in the bank that were like the first bank for black people during that time. She works for the Order of St. Luke. Yes, that was the order for which she worked for. She has 2 boys, adopted a girl. She hired many women of color. And at some point, you guys know when women started wanting to vote. And y'all recall that it was only white women. And black women, colored women, were like, these white women don't want us, They are wanting to have a vote for women, but yet they won't include colored women. So that was another fight. Like, this woman fought all these fights. Like, when I say all these fights, like when the Jim Crow was there, she had a journal where she would publish like the events that were occurring throughout the United States under Jim Crow. Like when the men were asked to go to war to the, I think it's Second World War. Please correct me. Okay. But she would talk to the black man, like, why are you going to fight for when we have fights to fight in our own country here? But then these black folks believe that by going to war, they will gain respect from white people. Ooh, Lord. And then I'm gonna conclude, y'all, because y'all, like I said, I love this book. And when I was listening to this book, I kept thinking about how black British people talk about Americans, how they're not educated. And I was just talking and I was reading this story. I'm like, I bet none of them know the story of Magdalena Walker. No one. I bet they don't know this story, because if you read a story like that, you would think twice before saying Americans are not educated, because what this woman did during a period where most of black people couldn't do, whoa. Okay, so let me just read 2-3 quotes, guys, because I have to conclude. Okay. So much for a short book, anyways, just 2-3 quotes. Oh, there was so many quotes I wanted to share. I like this. She's like, transformation was at the center of their belief, and I believe it too. We grow as a community when we have a thirst for knowledge and an undying ambition to be more than we are. Those of us who are educated must lift ourselves and our people up from the degradation and ignorance that whites have forced us into, and then help others to realize their value and their potential as well. Oh, this should conclude. I should not even read other quotes. This is what I want to send as a message to the black British and even some Africans who keep wanting to say, and some African Americans as well, who want to, not read about history. Do you hear this? That was beautifully said. Okay, I really love that quote. And then another quote. Oh yeah, here when they talk about the 40 acres, y'all listen. When General William Tecumseh Sherman gave 40 acres and an army mule to colored folks after the war in 1865, it wasn't long before delirium set in and President Andrew Johnson, over a glass of scotch, retracted the land that General Oliver Otis Howard had disbursed to the formerly enslaved and returned the property to the enslavers. Now y'all just heard about the story about 40 acres and a mule. Just like that, y'all see? Telling you, read, y'all. You learn so many things. Oh, I like this. This was from a white woman. You see, ignorance comes in all colors and forms. My family is British and has hated Negroes and Jews for generations. I just want to do better now. So this white woman wanted to invest, I guess, help out a little bit. And Maggie, why am I forgetting her name? Mrs. Walker here, Maggie Lena, wanted to refuse her help. She wanted to be like, no, we can do this with just colored people. And that whole conversation ensues. You guys, I want to tell you that's it. So I'm just going to go quickly over the 2 books that I listened, and then we're going to finish this wrap up. See, when I read a lot, this is what happens, okay? So I listened to Mama Coco and the 100 Gunmen, an ordinary family's extraordinary tale of love, loss, and survival in Congo. Now, this book is so triggering, I cannot even conceive that one family went through that. It is the killing of a whole family. When I say a whole family, cousins, fathers, neighbors, and through atrocious ways. And it's during, remember 2012 Kony. Remember that Kony documentary that came out? Uganda was responsible, just like they are responsible today with Rwanda, with everything going on in Congo. So I'm not going to go into much about it, you guys, but it's this journalist, Lisa Shannon. She's the one who went to Congo and wanted to do a documentary on the rape of Congolese women and the war in Congo. And she actually lived there. And while she lived there, she documented all these different stories coming from people in Congo. And the main character whose family she went to visit to get all these stories, she actually is situated somewhere in the United States, and she's married to a white man, and that white man also had come to Congo either to do some kind of work. I don't even know if it's UN nation type of work, but they met there, they had children, and they relocated to the United States. But then you do follow their journey before relocating to the United States, how they ran from the war once the war was like getting like a lot, and they ran into Kigali, which is the neighboring country of Rwanda, and then were able to go to the United States. But yeah, it's that story of Mama Coco, who's the oldest. She's like, I think, great grandma, and she's there in that village, and she just seen so many deaths in her family, and the brutality, guys, the brutality. That was what the story was about. So I read that. And I also listened to, A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Yeah, A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. So this book was picked by the ladies in my book club. I wish they had picked the book by a black author, but hey, it's okay, because I think the book was picked earlier. So anyways, I read this book. It's a 2 out of 5 for me, y'all. And it was okay. I was not impressed. It didn't speak to me, I don't know. Contrarily to the other books that I've read, I've read 2 books so far by Sarah J. Maas. This one, I don't think I will continue the series unless, again, the ladies continue to pick, the second installment in the series, then for sure. But me personally picking it up, no. But yeah, it's about, what's her name? Fairy and Tamlin, I guess. Fairy and Tamlin. So she kills accidentally a fae while she was hunting because she was hungry. And now Tamlin, who's the prince of fae in another world, comes to be like, you know what, you've killed a fae. You weren't supposed to kill a fae because, and now there is a contract that says that because you've killed, either we take a life or you come basically live with us. And she goes and live in Tamlin's world, where she would learn incredible things such as the blight. It's a disease that has taken over, it's slowly taken over the world of the Fae. But there's also this queen who has a iron fist, who has put a curse on Tamlin and the people. And Lord behold, she's there. She starts to develop things for Tamlin, but then the threat of this queen is looming, and Tamlin is not feeling comfortable. He's like, you know what, I'm gonna have you return, I'm gonna return you back to your people. And she's like, what about the contract? He's like, there was never a contract. Long story short, she goes back, but then she's like, but I can't leave him to his fate. Like, I need to go and defend my prince. Okay, so she goes back and then has to fight, or has to do all these how do you call it when you're sent to do these not missions, but y'all know what I mean. Okay, she has to do these things in order to try to save the kingdom, and possibly, yeah, I don't want to tell you things, I don't want to ruin it for you guys who want to read. But that was it. So yeah, there you go, you guys. I read how many books? 9 books. I actually wanted to read 8, so I read 9 books. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 books. Yeah, 9 books. Not bad. Anyways, you guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it has been entertaining enough for y'all, and I hope to see you in my next video. So on that note, please don't forget to enjoy my song. Don't forget to enjoy my song, but also don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And for those who do not want to comment but want to let me know that they're with me for as long as this journey will last, please leave me, oh yeah, an engagement ring for our engagement together, but mostly for the rules of engagement. Okay, engagement ring. All right, you guys, I'll see you in my next video. Bye.